Welcome to Glass Onion Secrets, mystery lovers. Dive into Benoit Blanc's epic clue-chasing Brilliance Unleashed. A thrilling tale of the Starfire Diamond's theft at the Hawthorne Estate. Blanc unravels chalk trails, crescent moon keys, and a deadly syndicate with his razor-sharp wit. Join us for suspense and secrets. Let's solve this together. Chapter 1. The Vanishing Heirloom. The Hawthorne Estate glittered under a velvet sky, its spires piercing the stars like a crown on the New York countryside. Chandeliers cast golden light through arched windows, bathing the gala's guests in a glow that screamed old money and older secrets. The air buzzed with laughter, clinking glasses and the rustle of silk gowns. But Benoit Blanc stood apart, his linen suit a soft rebellion against the tuxedoed crowd. His eyes, sharp as a hawk's, scanned the room, not for the champagne or the caviar, but for the truth. He'd been invited as a guest. Edward Hawthorne, the host, fancied himself a collector of eccentrics. But Blanc knew trouble followed wealth like moths to a flame, and tonight the flame was the Starfire Diamond. The diamond, a 50-carat marvel, sat on a velvet pedestal in the display room, its facets catching light like a trapped galaxy. Guests oohed and ahed, their whispers a mix of awe and envy. Edward, a wiry man with a smile too tight for his face, stood nearby, basking in the attention. His sister, Clara Hawthorne, floated through the crowd, her emerald gown trailing like a comet's tail. She was all charm, but Blanc caught the way her fingers twitched when Edward mentioned the diamond's history. Stolen from a Maharaja, recovered by their father, Elias, decades ago. A story that polished, Blanc thought, usually hid cracks. He sipped his bourbon, letting the burn ground him. The gala was a chessboard, and every guest a piece. Lila Voss, a journalist with a sharp bob and sharper questions, scribbled in a notebook, her eyes darting to Edward. Victor Lang, an art dealer with a velvet voice, charmed a cluster of heiresses. But his gaze lingered on Clara. Marcus Reed, the head of security, hovered near the display room, his jaw clenched like he expected a fight. Blanc's mind catalogued them all, each a thread in a tapestry he'd yet to unravel. Ladies and gentlemen, Edward's voice cut through the din, amplified by a microphone. The Starfire Diamond is more than a gem, it's our legacy. Tonight, we celebrate its light. The crowd applauded, but Blanc's eyes narrowed. Edward's hands shook, just a fraction. Fear, guilt, or something heavier? Blanc drifted towards the display room, his loafers silent on the marble floor. The diamond glowed under its glass case, a siren call to thieves and dreamers. He studied the setup. Infrared sensors, pressure plates, a camera blinking red in the corner. A fortress, but no fortress was impregnable. He leaned closer, his breath fogging the glass, and noticed a faint smudge on the case's edge. Not a fingerprint, too deliberate, like a painter's stroke. His lips curled. "Well now," he murmured, "ain't that a curious little hello?" Before he could investigate, a scream shattered the air. The crowd surged toward the display room, Blanc caught in the tide. Clara stood by the pedestal, her face pale as moonlight. "It's gone!" she cried. "The diamond! It's gone!" Gasps rippled through the room. Edward pushed forward, his eyes wild. "Impossible! The alarms! Marcus, check the system!" Marcus fumbled with a tablet, his fingers clumsy. "No breaches, sir. The sensors are active, cameras are live. It's still here, it has to be. But the case was empty, the velvet bare. The crowd buzzed with panic, accusations flying like sparks. Lila scribbled furiously, muttering about headlines. Victor slipped to the back, his face unreadable. Blanc stayed still, his mind racing. A theft in a locked room, under 100. Eyes? This wasn't a crime, it was a performance. "Ladies and gentlemen, please," Edward shouted, his voice cracking. "Remain calm. We'll find it. No one leaves until we do." The guests grumbled, but Blanc caught Clara's glance toward Victor, quick as a heartbeat. It wasn't fear or surprise, it was recognition. His pulse quickened. A glance like that carried weight, like a letter sealed with wax. He filed it away, his first clue in a game he was already playing. Blanc approached the case, ignoring Marcus's protests. "Just a peek, my friend," he drawled, his southern lilt disarming. He crouched, studying the smudge. It trailed to the pedestal's base, where a scuff mark marred the floor. Too clean for an accident, too small for a struggle. He glanced at the window behind, its latch untouched, but the sill dusted with something fine, like talc. A staged exit or a distraction? His fingers itched for a magnifying glass, but his mind was lens enough. "Mr. Blanc," Edward snapped, storming over. "This is a private matter. We don't need theatrics." Blanc stood, his smile placid. "And theatrics, Mr. Hawthorne, are precisely what we have. A diamond doesn't vanish without a script, and I'm rather fond of reading scripts." Edward's jaw tightened, but he said nothing, his eyes darting to Clara. Another thread, Blanc thought. The family was woven tight, but fraying at the edges. He moved through the crowd, ears open. Lila cornered a guest, asking about Edward's debts, rumours of millions lost in bad deals. Victor murmured to a waiter, his words too soft to catch, but his posture tense. Clara hovered near the bar, her fingers shredding a napkin. Blanc approached, offering a glass of bourbon. "Rough night, Miss Hawthorne," he said, his tone light, but his eyes sharp. "Care to share what's weighing on you?" Clara's laugh was brittle. "Just a stolen diamond, Mr. Blanc. Nothing to fuss over." But her gaze flicked to Victor again, and Blanc saw it. The same glance, laced with something unspoken. He leaned closer, voice low. "A gem like that doesn't walk off. Someone carried it, and someone knows who." Clara's hand froze, the napkin falling. She excused herself, but not before slipping a folded note under her glass. Blanc waited until she vanished into the crowd, then palmed it. The note was scrawled in hurried ink. "The star burns where shadows meet. A riddle or a warning." Blanc's mind spun, parsing the words. Star was the diamond, no doubt. Shadows meet suggested a place, a time, a secret. He tucked the note into his pocket, his blood singing. This was no petty theft. It was a puzzle, and Benoit Blanc was built to solve puzzles. He circled, back to the display room, where Marcus was arguing with a technician. "The cameras caught nothing," Marcus insisted, but his voice shook. Blanc studied him, sweat on his brow, eyes avoiding the window. A guard too nervous for innocence, too quick to deflect. Blanc filed it away, his mental tapestry growing. The smudge, the scuff, the talc, the glance, the note. each a thread, each a step toward the truth. The crowd thinned as security herded guests to the ballroom, Edward barking orders. Blanc lingered, his eyes on the window. The talc bothered him. It was too specific, like a prop left on stage. He knelt, sniffing the sill. Not talc, chalk, fine and fresh. Someone had been here, marking their path or masking it. He stood, his mind tracing the estate's layout. The window faced the east wing, a shadowed maze of unused rooms, a perfect stage for a thief or a liar. As he turned to leave, a guest bumped him, muttering an apology. Blanc's hand brushed the man's sleeve, and he felt it, a tremor, a nervous tick. He glanced at the man's face. Victor Lang, his smile too smooth, his eyes too sharp. Blanc's pulse spiked. The glance, the note, and now this. Victor was no bystander. He was a player. But what was his move? Blanc stepped into the hall, the gala's noise fading. The estate was a labyrinth, and the diamond was its heart. He needed to move fast, before the thief did. He headed for the east wing, the riddle echoing in his mind. The star burns where shadows meet. A clue, a map, a trap. He'd find out soon enough. But as he reached the corridor, a creak stopped him cold. It came from Edward's study, a door ajar in the dark. Someone was inside, and they weren't supposed to be. His hand hovered over the knob, his heart steady, but his mind alight. The game was on, and the next move was his. Chapter 2. The Hidden Glance. The corridor outside Edward Hawthorne's study was a tunnel of shadows, the gala's distant hum muffled by thick walls. Benoit Blanc stood frozen, his hand hovering over the doorknob, the creak still echoing in his ears. It wasn't just a sound. It was a signal, a whisper from the house itself that someone was playing a game he hadn't fully mapped. His pulse thrummed, not with fear, but with the electric thrill of a puzzle snapping into focus. The note in his pocket, the star burns where shadows meet, felt heavier now, its riddle pointing somewhere close, maybe behind that very door. Clara's glance at Victor Lang, quick as a match strike, burned in his memory. A glance like that wasn't casual. It was a thread, and Blanc was a man who pulled threads until the tapestry unravelled. He eased the door open, the hinges silent under his careful touch. Moonlight spilled through a tall window, painting the study in silvers and greys. Bookshelves loomed like sentinels, stuffed with leather-bound tomes on gems and history. A mahogany desk dominated the room, its surface cluttered with papers, a crystal decanter, and a single fountain pen, its ink gleaming wet. Someone had been here moments ago. Blanc's eyes darted to the floor. Chalk dust, faint but fresh, trailed from the desk to a rug. His lips twitched. "Well, ain't you a breadcrumb trail?" he murmured, his southern drawl wrapping the words like honey. He knelt, tracing the chalk with a fingertip. It matched the window-sill from the display room, that fine powder he'd mistaken for talc. Not a thief's accident, then. A marker, deliberate and bold. His mind spun. The smudge on the case, the scuff by the pedestal, the chalk here. Someone was leaving signs, either to guide or to mislead. He stood, his gaze sweeping the room. The rug was askew, One corner flipped, revealing a scuff mark on the hardwood, too precise, like the one by the case. He lifted the rug, heart ticking, faster. Nothing but dust and a faint outline, as if something heavy had sat there once. A safe? A trapdoor? He filed it away, his mental ledger growing. The study smelled of old paper and whiskey, but a sharper scent cut through. Jasmine, faint but unmistakable. Blanc's nose twitched. He'd smelled it before, on Lila Voss's scarf, when she'd brushed past him at the gala. A coincidence, or another thread? He moved to the desk, his fingers grazing the papers. Invoices for gem auctions, a letter from a bank about overdue loans, a scribbled note, VL knows too much. VL? Victor Lang? Blanc's pulse spiked. The glance, the note, and now this. Victor wasn't just a guest. He was a pivot point. A rustle came from the hall, soft as a whisper. Blanc slipped behind a bookshelf, his body still, his breath measured. The door edged open, and Clara Hawthorne stepped inside, her emerald gown catching the moonlight like a shard of glass. Her eyes were wide, not with fear, but with purpose. She moved to the desk, her fingers trembling as she opened a drawer. Blanc watched, his mind racing. Clara, the poised sister sneaking into her brother's study? This wasn't grief over a diamond. This was desperation. She pulled out a small key, its head etched with a symbol. A crescent moon, like a brand. Blanc's memory flicked to the gala, to Victor's cufflink glinting under the chandeliers. The same symbol. His blood sang. Clara clutched the key, whispering, "Not yet, not yet." She turned to leave, but her gaze caught the rug, askew, thanks to Blanc. Her breath hitched. She knelt, smoothing it, her fingers brushing the chalk. Dust. She froze, eyes darting to the shadows. "Who's there?" she called, her voice a mix of defiance and dread. Blanc stepped forward, his smile disarming. "Just a curious soul, Miss Hawthorne. Seems we're both fond of midnight strolls." Clara gasped, the key slipping to the floor. She scrambled for it, but Blanc was faster, scooping it up with a flourish. "Now, this is a pretty little thing," he said, twirling it. "Care to tell me what it unlocks? Or shall we guess? Safe, secret, or something altogether more personal?" Clara's face hardened, but her eyes betrayed a flicker of fear. "You don't understand, Mr. Blanc. That key's nothing, just a trinket." Her voice wavered, and Blanc saw it again. The glance, not at him, but at the door, as if expecting Victor to appear. He leaned closer, voice low. "A trinket don't make a lady sneak into a locked room. You glanced at Mr. Lang tonight, Clara. Twice. Once when the diamond vanished, once when I pressed you. What's he to you? Partner? Threat? Or something else?" She stepped back, her gown rustling. "You're chasing ghosts, Mr. Blanc. Victor's an old friend, that's all." But her fingers twitched, shredding an invisible napkin. Blanc pocketed the key, his mind mapping her lies. An old friend didn't spark a glance that sharp, didn't tie to a note about shadows and stars. He was about to press further when a shout echoed from the ballroom. Edward's voice, frantic. "Clara, where are you?" Clara bolted, her gown a green blur. Blanc let her go, his instinct screaming to follow, but his mind tethered to the study. The key, the chalk, the crescent moon. They were pieces of a puzzle, and Clara was only one corner. He turned back to the desk, rifling through the papers. The bank letter mentioned a debt, millions, due next week. Edward's tight smile at the gala made sense now. A man drowning in debt might sell a diamond, or stage its theft. Blanc's eyes caught a photo tucked under an invoice. A younger Edward with a man at an auction, both smiling, a gem glinting between them. The man's eyes were Victor's, though the name on the back read Vincent Lane. A pseudonym? A brother? Blanc's pulse thrummed. The glance, the key, and now a face from the past. He slipped the photo into his jacket, his mental tapestry weaving. Tighter? The smudge, the scuff, the chalk, the note, the glance, the key, the photo, each a step toward the starfire diamond. He moved to the window, checking the sill. More chalk, smudged by a hurried hand. He sniffed, jasmine again, stronger now. Lilac? Or a plant to throw him off? He peered outside, the east wing's silhouette looming. The riddle, where shadows meet, pointed there, he was sure. The study was a crossroads, but the real answers hid deeper in the estate's bones. Footsteps approached, heavy and deliberate. Blanc ducked behind the desk, his breath steady. Marcus Reed, the security guard, entered, his flashlight beam slicing the dark. "Damn it!" Marcus muttered, his voice taut. He knelt by the rug, inspecting the chalk. His fingers shook. Not guilt, Blanc thought, but fear. Marcus stood muttering, "She shouldn't have come here. She... Clara? Lila? Or someone else?" Blanc stayed still, his mind racing. Marcus was no mastermind. His nerves screamed pawn, not king. But pawns carried messages. Marcus checked his phone, typing furiously, then left, the door clicking shut. Blanc emerged, his eyes on the rug. He lifted it again, tracing the outline. A faint seam in the wood suggested a panel, but it was locked, and Clara's key didn't fit. He cursed softly. Another lock, another secret. The gala's noise swelled, Edward's voice calling for order. Blanc needed to move. Clara was slipping away, and Victor was a shadow he couldn't pin. But the study held one more clue. He scanned the bookshelves, his fingers brushing spines until one clicked. A false book, hollowed out. Inside was a scrap of paper, scrawled in the same hand as the note, VL meets EH at dawn. EH, Edward Hawthorne. And dawn was hours away. Blanc's blood roared. The glance wasn't just Clara and Victor. It tied to Edward, to the chalk, to the diamond's ghost. He slipped the scrap into his pocket, the key and photo heavy beside it. The east wing beckoned, but another sound stopped him. A faint tap, like a pen on glass from the desk. He turned, heart pounding. The decanter's lid was off, and a single drop of whiskey rolled down its side, fresh as a tear. Someone had been here, right before Clara. Someone watching, waiting. He stepped into the hall, the riddle burning in his mind. The star burns where shadows meet. The study was a start, but the shadows were deeper, and the star was still out of reach. As he moved toward the east wing, a figure darted across the corridor, Victor Lang, his cufflink glinting, his eyes locked on Blanc for a split second before he vanished. The glance again, but this time it wasn't fear. It was a challenge. Blanc's smile widened. The game was on, and the next move was his. But as he reached the east wing's door, a new sound froze him, a low hum like a machine waking up from behind a locked panel. What had Victor left behind? Chapter 3. Shadows in the Study. The east wing of the Hawthorne estate was a mausoleum of forgotten grandeur, its corridors draped in dust and silence. Benoit Blanc stood before the locked panel, the low hum behind it vibrating like a heartbeat in the dark. His fingers grazed the cold metal, tracing a seam where Victor Lang's shadow had fled moments ago. That glance, sharp, daring, almost amused, hadn't been a retreat. It was a gauntlet thrown. Blanc's pulse thrummed, not from fear, but from the thrill of a puzzle tightening its grip. The note in his pocket. The star burns where shadows meet. The crescent moon key. The chalk dust. The photo of Edward and Vincent Lane. They were threads, and this panel was the next knot to unravel. Victor was no mere art dealer, and Blanc aimed to find out what he was running from, or toward. He knelt, his linen suit brushing the gritty floor, and studied the lock. It was old, brass tarnished by time, but scratches around the keyhole gleamed fresh. Someone had been here, and not for nostalgia. The hum grew louder, a mechanical purr that set his teeth on edge. A generator, a trap. He pulled Clara's key from his jacket, its crescent moon etching catching the dim light. It didn't fit, the lock was too narrow, but the symbol matched, a faint carving on the panel like a signature left in haste. Blanc's lips curled. "Well now," he drawled, "ain't you a shy little secret?" He glanced down the corridor. The gala's distant music a faint pulse. Victor's cufflink had flashed as he'd vanished, that same crescent moon glinting like a taunt. The man was a ghost, slipping through cracks Blanc hadn't mapped yet. But ghosts left traces. Chalk on a shoe, a glance to Clara, a photo with a false name. Blanc's mind spun, weaving the threads. The smudge on the display case, the scuff by the pedestal, the chalk in the study, the notes riddle, Clara's key, the photo, and now this hum. Each was a note in a symphony, and Blanc was the conductor. He pulled a penknife from his pocket, its blade glinting as he worked the panel's screws. The hum spiked, then softened, as if sensing intrusion. Sweat beaded on his brow, not from effort but from the weight of eyes he couldn't see. Victor was close. He felt it, like a storm brewing. The panel popped loose, revealing a narrow closet, its air thick with mildew and metal. A single bulb flickered, casting jagged shadows over crates and cobwebs. At the far end, a wooden drawer sat flush against the wall, its lock etched with, you guessed it, a crescent moon. Blanc's heart ticked faster. This was no servant's nook. It was a hideaway. He stepped inside, the floor creaking under his loafers. The hum came from below, a faint vibration through the boards. He tested the drawer's lock. Clara's key fit, but it didn't turn. A decoy? Or a test? He scanned the closet, his eyes catching a faint chalk line on the floor, trailing to a crate. He lifted its lid, finding only old ledgers, their pages brittle with age, but the chalk led beneath, to a loose board. He pried it up, revealing a small tin box, its lid rusted but intact. Inside was a faded photo. Edward Hawthorne, 20 years younger, arm around a man with Victor's eyes. The back read, EH and VL, Istanbul Auction, 2005. Vincent Lane again. Blanc's blood sang. The glance wasn't just Clara's. It was Edward's past, staring back. A noise snapped him alert. A mutter from the corridor, low and tense. "Fix the damn cameras now!" Marcus Reed, the security guard, his voice raw with panic. Blanc slipped the photo into his jacket and ducked behind a crate, his breath steady, but his mind racing. Marcus's flashlight beam sliced through the panel's gap, dancing over the closet walls. "She shouldn't have been here," Marcus hissed to himself, or a phone. "If he finds out—" He trailed off, footsteps shuffling closer. Blanc's fingers tightened on the key. Marcus wasn't the thief. His fear screamed pawn. But pawns carried secrets, and Blanc needed this one's. Marcus paused, his beam lingering on the chalk line. "Hell," he muttered, kneeling. Blanc saw his chance. He stepped out, casual as a breeze, his drawl smooth. "Evening, Marcus. Fancy meeting you in a closet at this hour." Marcus yelped, dropping his flashlight, which rolled into the shadows. His face was a mask of sweat and dread, eyes darting to the panel. "Mr. Blanc, I'm just checking the wiring. Old house, you know." His hands shook, betraying the lie. Blanc tilted his head, smile sharp. "Wiring don't hum like that, son. Nor do cameras need fixing unless someone's been playing with them. Care to share who she is, or why you're jumpier than a cat in a thunderstorm?" Marcus backed up, his shoulder hitting a crate. "I don't know what you mean. I'm doing my job." But his voice cracked, and Blanc saw it. A flicker of guilt, tied to the chalk, to Clara, to Victor. He pressed closer, voice low. "A diamond's gone, Marcus. Someone's leaving chalk like breadcrumbs. You know more than you're saying. Help me, or I'll dig till I find it." Marcus swallowed, eyes on the floor. I saw Clara in the study. She wasn't supposed to be there, that's all." Blanc's mind clicked. Clara, the key, the rug. But Marcus's fear wasn't for Clara. It was for someone higher. Before Blanc could push, a creak echoed from the corridor. Deliberate, like a warning. Marcus bolted, his flashlight forgotten. Blanc let him go, his instinct screaming to chase, but his mind tethered to the closet. Marcus was a loose thread, but the photo was a knot. He turned back to the drawer, trying the key again. It stuck, then clicked, revealing a single sheet. A map of the estate, hand-drawn, with a red X marked "Library, Shadows Meet." The riddle snapped into focus. The library, in the East Wing's heart, was where the star, maybe the diamond, burned. But the map's edges were singed, as if someone had tried to destroy it. Blanc's pulse spiked. This wasn't a thief's plan. It was a conspiracy's blueprint. He slipped the map into his jacket, beside the photo and note. The hum below grew louder. A rhythmic pulse now, like a machine warming up. He tapped the floor, finding a hollow spot, but no latch. Whatever was down there, generator, vault, or worse, needed more than a penknife. He stepped out, closing the panel, when a new scent hit him. Jasmine, sharp and fresh. Lila Voss's scarf flashed in his mind. But this was stronger, like a perfume left to linger. A plant, or another player? The corridor was empty, but footsteps echoed from the east wing's depths. Soft, hurried, feminine. Blanc followed, his loafers silent on the worn carpet. The library loomed ahead, its double doors carved with moons and stars, as if mocking the riddle. He paused, hearing a rustle inside. Clara's voice, low and urgent. "You promised no one would know." A man's reply, too soft to catch. "Victor? Edward?" Blanc's heart pounded. The glance was here now, alive in the shadows. He eased, the door open, moonlight spilling over towering shelves, and a long table strewn with books. Clara stood at the far end, her gown a green shimmer, facing a figure half hidden by a curtain. Blanc squinted. The crescent moon cufflink glinted. Victor. Clara's hands clutched a necklace, its pendant matching the key's symbol. "You can't keep this up," she whispered. "He's asking questions." Victor's voice was velvet, edged with steel. "Let him ask. He'll find nothing but ghosts." Blanc stepped forward, his drawl cutting the air. "Ghosts, Mr. Lang? I'm more partial to flesh and blood. Like that necklace, Miss Hawthorne. Or that map I just found." Clara gasped, her necklace dropping to the table. Victor's eyes locked, on Blanc, not fear, but calculation. "You're persistent, Mr. Blanc," he said, stepping into the light. "But persistence can be unwise." His hand twitched, as if reaching for something. A weapon? A signal? Blanc held his ground. "Smile. Steady. Unwise is my middle name, sir. That map says shadows meet right here. Care to enlighten me? Or is that necklace the real clue?" Clara's face paled, her fingers trembling. "Benoit, please," she said, voice breaking. "You're digging too deep. This isn't what you think." But her eyes flicked to Victor, the glance again, heavy with secrets. Before Blanc could press, a crash came from the gala. Glass shattering, Edward's shout rising. "He find her! Now!" Clara flinched, grabbing her necklace. Victor slipped toward a side door, his cufflink catching the light one last time. "Another time, Blanc," he murmured, vanishing. Clara moved to follow, but Blanc blocked her path, voice soft but firm. "Not yet, Clara. That necklace, your key, what's it hiding? Tell me, or I'll find out the hard way." She shook her head, tears glinting. "You don't understand. It's not about the diamond. It's about family." She pushed past. Him, her gown trailing like a comet's tail. Blanc let her go, his mind racing. Family. The photo, the map, the necklace, all pointed to Edward, to Victor, to a past buried deep. He knelt, picking up a scrap Clara dropped, a note in the same hand as before. "E.H. owes V.L. everything. E.H. Edward Hawthorne. V.L. Victor Lang. The debt wasn't just money, it was blood." Blanc stood, the library's shelves looming like judges. The map's red X burned in his mind, but the hum from the closet nagged him. He needed the library's secrets, but something else was waking in the estate. A machine, a plan, a trap. He moved to the table, scanning Clara's books. Gemology, auctions, a history of the Hawthorns. One spine was hollowed like the studies. He opened it, finding a single page. V.L. meets E.H. at dawn, library. Dawn, again, hours away. The gala's chaos grew. Shouts, footsteps, Edward's voice barking orders. Blanc's fingers tightened on the note. Edward owed Victor everything. Money, loyalty, maybe the diamond itself. But Clara's tears, her necklace, her glance, they weren't greed, they were protection. For who? Edward? Or someone else? He stepped to the library's window, checking the sill. Chalk, fresh and fine, smudged by a hurried hand. He sniffed. No jasmine this time, just dust and wax. His eyes caught a flicker outside. A shadow, moving fast toward the east wings. Edge, Victor, Marcus, or a new player? The riddle echoed where shadows meet. The library was the heart, but the shadows were spreading. Blanc turned to leave, his mental tapestry weaving tighter. The smudge, the scuff, the chalk, the note, the key, the photo, the map, the necklace, the debt. Each a step toward the starfire. Diamond, each a trap waiting to spring. But as he reached the door, a new sound stopped him. A faint click, like a lock turning, from the library's far wall. A panel slid open, revealing darkness beyond. Someone was inside, and they weren't alone. Chapter 4. The Stranger's Alibi. The library's air was thick with dust and secrets, but the faint click of the secret panel snapped Benoit Blanc's senses to razor-sharp focus. Moonlight bled through the tall windows, casting the shelves in ghostly silver. But the darkness beyond the panel was absolute, a void that swallowed sound and spit back menace. Someone was there, watching, waiting. His fingers brushed the crescent moon key in his pocket, its weight a tether to Clara's. Trembling glance, Victor Lang's taunting cufflink, and the scrawled note, EHO's VL everything. The riddle, the star burns where shadows meet, had led him here, to this library. But the shadows were multiplying, and Victor was slipping through them like smoke. Blanc's pulse thrummed, not with doubt, but with the electric hum of a puzzle begging to be cracked. He stepped toward the panel, his loafers silent on the creaky oak, ready to meet whoever or whatever lurked inside. But a shout from the gala shattered the moment, Edward Hawthorne's voice slicing through the estate like a cracked bell. "Search every room! She's here somewhere!" Clara, no doubt, fleeing her own truths. Blanc froze, his eyes darting to the panel. The darkness beyond was still, too still, as if holding its breath. His instinct screamed to dive in, to chase the shadow, but Edward's panic meant chaos, and chaos meant cover. For Victor, for the diamond, for the whole tangled mess. Blanc slipped the library's map into his jacket, beside the photo of Edward and Vincent Lane, and backed away. The panel could wait. Victor couldn't. That man's alibi was a house of cards, and Blanc aimed to blow it down. He moved through the East Wing's maze, the gala's noise swelling. Clinking glasses, nervous chatter, security barking orders. The photo burned in his mind. Edward, young and smug, arm around a man with Victor's eyes, dated 2005 Istanbul. Vincent Lane, the name read, but names were costumes, and Victor wore his like a second skin. The crescent moon cufflink, the chalk, on his shoe, the glance to Clara. They weren't accidents, they were tells. Blanc's mental tapestry wove tighter. The smudge on the display case, the scuff by the pedestal, the chalk in the study, the riddle's note, Clara's key, the photo, the library's map, the necklace, the debt. Each was a thread, but Victor was the needle. The town of Hawthorne lay 10 minutes from the estate, a sleepy cluster of brick storefronts and neon signs blinking against the April chill. Blanc had slipped out, his rental car a modest sedan that didn't scream detective. He'd tracked Victor to the Blue Lantern, a bar tucked between a pawnshop and a laundromat, its windows fogged with smoke and secrets. The gala was locked down, but Victor had vanished before Edward's orders, his absence louder than any clue. Blanc parked across the street, his linen suit a soft contrast to the bar's grit. He adjusted his tie, a faint smile playing on his lips. "Time to see what Mr. Lang's hiding behind that velvet voice," he murmured, stepping into the night. The Blue Lantern smelled of stale beer and desperation, its jukebox crooning a Sinatra tune that felt like a lie. Locals hunched, over tables, their eyes sliding past Blanc without a second glance. Victor sat at the bar, his charcoal suit pristine, a whiskey glass glinting in his hand. His posture was casual, too casual, like a predator playing prey. Blanc slid onto a stool 2 seats away, ordering a bourbon with a drawl that turned heads. "Fine night for a drink," he said, loud enough for Victor to hear. "Though I reckon some folks prefer running to sippin'." Victor's eyes flicked up, that crescent moon cufflink catching the bar's dim light. "Mr. Blanc," he said, voice smooth as silk, "didn't peg you for a dive bar, man. Shouldn't you be at the gala, chasing ghosts?" His smile was a blade, sharp and cold. Blanc leaned back, sipping his bourbon, its burn grounding him. "Ghosts don't leave chalk on their shoes, Mr. Lang, nor do they slip out of locked-down estates. Care to share where you scampered off to? Or is Vincent Lane the name you're using tonight?" Victor's smile didn't waver, but his fingers tightened on the glass, a hair's breadth of tension. "Vincent Lane? You've been digging, haven't you? I'm flattered." He swirled his whiskey, eyes locked on Blanc. "I'm a consultant, nothing more. Art, gems, the occasional favour for friends like Edward. My past is dull, I assure you." But the lie was in his shoulders, the slight hunch of a man guarding a vault. Blanc's mind clicked. The photo, Istanbul, 2005. Victor wasn't just a friend. He was a partner, maybe a debt collector. Blanc leaned closer, voice low. "Dull don't cut it, sir. You glanced at Clara Hawthorne when that diamond vanished like you knew the script. You left chalk in the study, same as the display room. And this?" He tapped his pocket where the photo rested. "This says you and Edward go back, way back. So let's try again. What's VLOEH? And where's my diamond?" Victor's eyes narrowed, a flicker of something, anger, fear, before the mask snapped back. "You're a storyteller, Blanc, but stories need proof. You've got none." The bartender, a grizzled man with a scar over one eye, refilled Victor's glass, his ear too close for coincidence. Blanc clocked him, eavesdropping, maybe reporting. He shifted gears, his drawl softening. "Proof's a funny thing, like that moonstone gem misplaced last month at Edward's spring soiree. Funny how gems keep wandering when you're around." The bartender froze, his rags stalling on the counter. Victor's smile twitched, a crack in the facade. "Moonstone," he said, voice flat. "News to me." Blanc sipped his bourbon, eyes never leaving Victor. "Is it now? 'Cause I hear Edward's got debts deeper than the Hudson. Gems vanish, debts get paid. And you, Mr. Lang, you're the man who knows the math." The bartender coughed, retreating to a corner, but Blanc caught his glance to Victor. Quick. nervous like a dog waiting for a command. Victor drained his whiskey, standing. "You're fishing, Blanc. Enjoy your drink." He moved to leave, but Blanc's voice stopped him, soft as a blade. "One last thing. That cufflink, crescent, moon, matches Clara's necklace, matches a key I found. Care to explain?" Victor turned, his face a study in control. "Fashion's a small world," he said, but his hand brushed his cuff, a tell as loud as a shout. He walked out, the bar's door, swinging shut. Blanc waited, then followed, his steps silent on the pavement. Victor's car, a sleek black coupe, idled down the street. But Blanc's eyes caught something else. Chalk dust on Victor's shoe, glowing under a street lamp. The same fine powder from the study, the library, the display room. His blood sang. Victor wasn't just slippery. He was leaving a trail. He tailed the coupe at a distance, the town's lights fading into country dark. Victor's car turned toward a warehouse district, all rusted gates and broken windows. Blanc parked behind a dumpster, his sedan blending with the shadows. The coupe stopped at a squat building, its sign long faded. Victor stepped out, joined by Marcus Reed, the security guard, whose flashlight bobbed like a nervous pulse. Blanc crept closer, crouching behind a crate, his ears straining. Marcus's voice was tight. "The boss ain't happy." Cameras were supposed to stay on. Victor's reply was ice. "Fix it, Marcus, or you're done." Blanc's mind raced. Marcus, the pawn, tampering with cameras. Victor, the enforcer, serving the boss. E.H., Edward, or someone higher? The library's note, E.H. owes V.L. everything, felt heavier now. He edged closer, spotting a side door. Chalk marked its frame, a deliberate smudge. His fingers brushed the crescent moon key, itching to try it, but a new sound stopped him. A low hum, like the panel in the east wing, pulsing from the warehouse's core. A machine? A vault? Or something worse? He slipped inside, the air thick, with oil and rust. Crates loomed, labelled with auction house stamps, gems, art, antiquities. A smuggling hub, maybe, tied to Edward's debts. Blanc moved deeper, guided by the hum, until he reached a locked grate, its bars cold and unyielding. Beyond, a faint light flickered, and voices echoed. Victor's, Marcus's, and a third, too soft to place. "He's close," the third voice said, a woman's, sharp with urgency. Clara? Lila? Blanc's heart pounded. The chalk led here, but so did the glance, the photo, the map. He tested the grate's lock, no crescent moon, but scratches suggested heavy use. The hum grew louder, vibrating through his bones. He pulled his penknife, working the screws, when a shadow moved behind him. Tall, deliberate, not Victor or Marcus. Blanc spun, his drawl ready. "Friend, I hope you're lost, 'cause this ain't the place for a stroll." The shadow paused, then stepped into the light. Lila Voss, her journalist's notebook clutched like a shield. "Blanc," she hissed, "you're gonna get us both killed." His eyes narrowed, catching the jasmine scent on her coat, same as the study, the library. "Killed, Miss Voss? Or caught? That notebook's been awful busy, and I'm betting it knows more than you're telling." Lila's face was pale, but her jaw set. "I'm after the same truth you are. But this," she gestured to the grate, the hum. "This is bigger than a diamond." Before Blanc could reply, Marcus's voice cut through, closer now. "Check the door. Someone's here." Blanc grabbed Lila's arm, pulling her behind a crate. Marcus's flashlight swept the warehouse, Victor's silhouette looming nearby. The hum spiked, a mechanical groan that shook the floor. Blanc's mind raced. The crescent moon key, the map's X, the photo's lie, the chalk's trail, the debt's shadow. Victor's alibi was crumbling, but the boss was still a ghost. He whispered to Lila, "Stay put, or we're both in the soup." She nodded, her eyes wide but steady. He whispered to Lila, "Stay put, or we're both in the soup." She nodded, her eyes wide but steady. He crept toward the grate, the voices clearer now. Victor's velvet tone, "The boss wants it tonight, Marcus. No mistakes." Marcus's reply was a whimper. "But Blanc, he's everywhere." The woman's voice again sharp. "Then make him disappear." Blanc's smile was grim. Disappear? He'd like to see them try. But as he reached for the grate, a new sound froze him. A click like a gun's hammer from the shadows behind Lila. Someone else was here, and they weren't playing games. Chapter 5. The Guard's Confession. The warehouse was a cavern of shadows, its air heavy with oil and betrayal. Benoit Blanc crouched behind a crate, Lila Voss's jasmine-scented coat brushing his arm, her breath sharp with fear. The clicker-shiunk, a gun's hammer, still hung in the air, a cold promise from the darkness beyond the flickering warehouse grate. Victor Lang's velvet voice echoed nearby, cool and commanding. "The boss wants it tonight, Marcus. No mistakes." Marcus Reed's reply was a nervous stammer. "But Blanc, he's everywhere." Then the woman's voice, sharp as a blade. "Then make him disappear." Blanc's lips curled, not in fear, but in delight. Disappear. He was just getting started. The crescent moon key in his pocket, the chalk dust on Victor's shoe, the photo of Edward and Vincent Lane, the map's red X. They were threads, and this warehouse was unraveling them fast. His eyes darted to Lila, her notebook clutched like a lifeline. That jasmine scent, same as the study, the library, nagged him. But her wide eyes screamed ally, not enemy. The gun's click came from behind, not her, and Blanc's instincts honed on the unseen threat. Marcus's flashlight bobbed closer, Victor's silhouette looming like a storm cloud. The hum from the grate pulsed louder, a mechanical heartbeat that set Blanc's teeth on edge. A vault? A smuggling hub? He needed to know, but first he needed Marcus. Poor, trembling Marcus, whose fear was a crack Blanc could pry open. He whispered to Lila, his drawl low as a breeze. "Stay put, darling. I'm about to have a chat with our jittery friend." Lila nodded, her fingers tightening on the notebook. Blanc slipped along the crates, his loafers silent on the grimy concrete. The chalk trail, same as the display room, study, and library, glowed faintly under a broken bulb, leading to Marcus. Blanc's mind wove the tapestry tighter. The smudge on the case, the scuff by the pedestal, the chalk's deliberate marks. The riddle's the star, burns where shadows meet. Clara's key, the photo, the map, the necklace, Edward's debt, the moonstone's ghost. Victor's alibi was dust, but Marcus was the key to the boss. Maybe E.H. himself. Blanc rounded a crate, stepping into Marcus's flashlight beam like a stage actor hitting his mark. "Evening, Marcus," he said, his southern lilt disarming. "Seems you're in a pickle, what with cameras cut and bosses barking." Marcus yelped, the flashlight clattering to the floor, its light spinning wild shadows. His face was a map of sweat and panic, eyes darting to the grate where Victor stood, now silent, watching. "Mr. Blanc," Marcus stammered, I'm just checking inventory. You shouldn't be here." His hands shook, betraying a man drowning in someone else's game. Blanc tilted his head, smile sharp as a tack. "Inventory don't hum like that, son. Nor does it need cameras turned off at a gala with a missing diamond. You told Victor I'm everywhere. Flattering. But I'd rather hear why you're helping a thief." Marcus backed up, his shoulder hitting a crate. "I didn't steal nothing. I did what I was told." His voice cracked and Blanc saw it. Guilt, yes, but layered with fear, thick as tar. He stepped closer, voice soft but relentless. "Told by who, Marcus? Victor? Edward? Or this boss you're whispering about? A diamond's gone, chalk's everywhere, and you're shaking like a leaf. Talk, or I'll dig till the roots come up." Marcus's eyes flicked to the grate, where Victor's shadow lingered, then back to Blanc. His shoulders slumped, a dam breaking. "I cut the cameras," he whispered, voice barely audible. "Not for the diamond. For a friend. They said it. Was just one night, no harm. But then the starfire vanished, and they said it's still here on the estate. I swear I don't know where." His words spilled fast, a confession born of terror, not greed. Blanc's pulse spiked. "Still here?" The diamond wasn't gone. It was hidden, maybe under the riddle's star. He kept his face neutral, drawl steady. "A friend, huh? That's a mighty kind word for someone leaving you holding the bag. Who's they, Marcus? And why's chalk trailing you like a bad habit?" Marcus swallowed, his eyes wet. "I can't say. They'll kill me. I only messed with the cameras. Disabled. The feed for 10 minutes, that's all. I didn't see no theft." But his fingers twitched, brushing his pocket, where a faint crescent moon emblem peeked out. A keychain, matching Clara's key, Victor's cufflink. Blanc's blood sang. Another thread, tying Marcus to the heart of it. Before he could press, Lila's gasp cut through, sharp and close. Blanc spun, spotting her silhouette against a crate, the gun's owner still hidden. Victor's voice rang out, cold and clear. "Enough, Marcus. You've said too much." Marcus froze, his confession dying in his throat. Blanc moved fast, pulling Marcus behind a crate as Victor stepped into the light, his cufflink glinting like a warning. "Mr. Blanc," Victor said, his smile a blade. "You're a pest. Persistent, but a pest." His hand rested on his belt. Not a gun, but something heavy, maybe a knife. Blanc stood, his grin unfazed. "Pests get underfoot, Mr. Lang. Like that chalk on your shoe, matching Marcus's little trail. Or that moonstone that wandered off last month. Care to revise your consultant story?" Victor's eyes narrowed, but his smile held. "You're clever, I'll give you that. But clever doesn't find diamonds, it finds trouble." He nodded to the shadows, and the woman's voice came again closer now. "Get him out, now." Not Clara. Too clipped, too cold. Leela? No, her jasmine scent was still beside Blanc, her notebook trembling in her hands. Blanc's mind raced. Marcus's confession, cameras cut, diamond on sight, shifted the game. The chalk wasn't random. It was a pattern, deliberate, pointing somewhere. He glanced at the grate, its hum louder, almost mocking. "Trouble's my trade, Victor," he said, stepping forward, baiting him. "And I'm betting that hum's where the diamond's hiding. Or maybe it's with Clara, seeing as you and her share such fashionable tastes." He tapped his pocket, where the crescent moon key sat, watching Victor's face for a tell. Victor's smile flickered, a crack in the mask. "Clara's a sentimental fool," he said too quick. "Keep chasing her, Blanc, and you'll miss the real prize." He turned, signalling Marcus, who hesitated, eyes pleading with Blanc. But before Marcus could move, Lila stood, her voice shaking but firm. "He's right, Victor. The diamond's not here. I've been tracking your deals, auctions, debts, all of it." Her notebook waved like a flag, and Blanc caught a glimpse. Pages scrawled with names, dates, Edward's included. Victor laughed, a low, ugly sound. "A journalist with a death wish. Charming." He stepped toward Leela, but Blanc blocked him, his drawl icy. "Easy now. You touch her, and that boss of yours will have more than a missing diamond to fret over." Victor paused, weighing his odds, then backed off, his cufflink glinting as he retreated to the grate. "You're on borrowed time, Blanc," he said, vanishing into the dark, Marcus trailing like a whipped dog. The woman's voice faded, leaving only the hum. Blanc turned to Lila, his eyes sharp. "That notebook's gonna get you killed, Miss Voss. What's in it that's worth a bullet?" Lila's face was pale, but her chin lifted. "Edward's auctions, millions lost, gems sold under the table. Victor's name's all over them, and someone called E. I thought it was Edward, but now—" She trailed off, her jasmine scent mixing with the warehouse's grit. Blanc's mind clicked. EH owes VL everything. Edward, Victor, and E. A triangle, not a line. He led Lila out, the gun's threat gone, but its echo lingering. The estate loomed in the distance, its lights a false promise of safety. Marcus's words, "The diamond's still here," burned in Blanc's brain. He needed the ballroom. The chandelier Clara's necklace had sparked in his mind. The riddle Starburns wasn't just poetry. It was a place, a hiding spot. He drove back, Lila silent beside him, her notebook a ticking bomb. The chalk, the crescent moons, the hum, they were converging, and Blanc was running out of shadows to chase. At the estate, the gala's chaos had settled into a tense hum. Guests corralled, security pacing. Blanc slipped inside, heading for the ballroom, its chandeliers glittering like frozen stars. He climbed a service ladder, heart pounding, to a panel beneath the grandest one, its crystals winking with secrets. The crescent moon key didn't fit, but the panel's lock was scratched, recently used. He pried it open with his penknife, finding nothing, just dust and wire, no diamond, no clue. His stomach sank, a rare misstep. He descended, mind racing. Marcus's confession, Lila's notebook, Victor's threat. They pointed here, didn't they? He scanned the ballroom, spotting Clara across the room, her necklace catching the light. Her eyes met his, not with guilt, but with urgency, as if pleading. Blanc's gaze flicked to the chandelier again, its crystals too perfect, too still. The star burns, not inside maybe, but on it, in it. Before he could move, a voice cut through low and close, Victor's, from the ballroom's edge. "He's found it," Victor said, not to Blanc, but to someone hidden, his cufflink a glint of menace. Blanc froze, his mental tapestry fraying. The smudge, the scuff, the chalk, the note, the key, the photo, the map, the necklace, the debt, the moonstone, Marcus's fear, Lila's truth. The diamond was here, but so was a trap, and Victor's smile said Blanc had just stepped into it. Chapter 6. The Passage of Secrets. The ballroom of the Hawthorne estate glittered like a fever dream, its chandeliers casting 1,000 tiny stars across the marble floor. But Benoit Blanc felt the cold bite of a trap closing in. Victor Lang's voice, "He's found it," still hung in the air, a velvet threat that curled around Blanc's spine like smoke. He stood by the service ladder, the empty chandelier panel mocking him with its dust and silence. No diamond, no clues, just the faint scratch of a lock recently used. The riddle, "The star burns where shadows meet," had led him here. But Victor's words meant Blanc was either inches from the starfire diamond or steps from a grave. His fingers brushed the crescent moon key in his pocket, its weight tying him to Clara's trembling glance, Marcus's broken confession, and the photo of Edward with Vincent Lane. The trap was set, but Blanc was no one's prey. His eyes scanned the ballroom, catching Clara Hawthorne's silhouette across the crowd, her crescent moon necklace glinting like a beacon. Her gaze met his, not with fear, but with a silent plea, as if she knew the chandelier's secret and dreaded its truth. Victor's shadow lingered at the room's edge, his cufflink a glint of menace, but he didn't approach, not yet. Blanc's pulse thrummed, not with panic, but with the electric hum of a puzzle shifting into focus. The diamond was still here. Marcus had sworn it, hidden where the star burns. If not in the chandelier, then below it, behind it, somewhere the shadows converged. He needed to move, fast, before Victor's trap snapped shut. The ballroom's opulence, gold filigree, velvet drapes, the clink of champagne flutes, felt like a stage. Every guest and actor in a play Blanc was rewriting. He slipped toward a bétier, servant's door, its frame tucked behind a tapestry of a crescent moon, as if the estate itself was winking at him. The door creaked open, revealing a narrow stairwell, its stone steps worn smooth by decades of unseen feet. Chalk dust marked the threshold, faint but deliberate, matching the trails in the study, library, and warehouse. Blanc's lips curled. "Well now," he murmured, his southern drawl wrapping the words like a warm blanket. "Ain't you a breadcrumb trail to somewhere spicy?" He descended, the air growing damp and heavy, the gala's noise fading to a distant pulse. His loafers tapped softly, each step measured, his mind weaving the tapestry tighter. The smudge on the display case, the scuff by the pedestal, the chalks, persistent marks, the riddle's cryptic verse, Clara's key, the photo of Edward and Victor, the library's map, Clara's necklace, Edward's debt, the moonstone's shadow, Marcus's cameras, Lila's notebook. Each thread pointed downward into the estate's bones, where secrets slept or prowled. The stairwell ended at a rusted gate, its lock etched with a crescent moon symbol, identical to Clara's key. Blanc tried it, heart ticking faster as it clicked open, revealing a passage carved from bedrock. its walls slick with mildew. A faint glow flickered ahead, not electric but organic, like candlelight dancing on stone. The chalk trail continued, smudged by hurried feet, and a new scent hit him. Not Lila's jasmine, but wax and old paper, thick with age. He moved forward, his penknife ready, though he doubted steel could cut through what waited here. The passage widened into a chamber, its ceiling low and oppressive, like a tomb built for giants. A single lantern hung from a hook, casting jagged shadows over a wooden table strewn with papers, a locked chest, and a carved crescent moon relief on the wall, its curves mirroring Clara's necklace. Blanc's blood sang. This wasn't a hideout. It was a nerve centre, the heart of whatever game Edward, Victor, and E were playing. He approached the table, his fingers grazing a leather-bound ledger. Its pages yellowed but fresh with ink. Names leapt out: Clara H., Victor L., and a cryptic E, tied to dates, gems and dollar signs, millions, funneled through auctions. He flipped through, his mind decoding fast. The ledger wasn't just a record. It was a confession. Bribes, payoffs, a smuggling ring dressed up as high society. Edward's debts, hinted at in the study, were here in black and white, tied to Victor's consulting and an E, who pulled strings from the shadows. Blanc's pulse spiked. EH owes VL everything, the note had said. But this E felt bigger, colder, a ghost orchestrating the diamond's theft, or its cover. He pocketed a page, his mental tapestry, growing, the chandelier's empty promise, the chalk's path, this ledger's lies. A rustle broke his focus, soft as a whisper, but sharp as a blade. Blanc froze, his hand on the ledger, eyes scanning the chamber's dark corners. The lanterns, flame flickered, casting a shadow that wasn't his, slender, deliberate, moving closer. He stepped back, drawl ready. Friend, if you're here for the ambiance, I'd suggest a nicer cave. The shadow paused, then stepped into the light. Clara Hawthorne, her emerald gown dusty, her crescent moon necklace glinting like a guilty star. Her face was pale, not with fear but with resolve, as if she'd been waiting for this moment. "Benoit," she said, voice low, "you shouldn't be here." Her eyes flicked to the ledger, then back to him, heavy with secrets. Blanc tilted, his head, smile disarming. "Seems I'm exactly where I need to be, Miss Hawthorne. That necklace of yours, it's a family heirloom, ain't it? Matches the key, the carving, the whole damn conspiracy. Care to tell me why you're hiding? A diamond that's got Victor and Edward spinning like tops?" Clara's breath hitched, her fingers brushing the pendant. "It's not about the diamond," she whispered. "It's about my father." Blanc's mind clicked. Elias Hawthorne, the patriarch, the man who'd recovered the starfire from a Maharaja's curse. He stepped closer, voice soft but relentless. "Elias, huh? Funny how his name keeps popping up. Auctions, smuggling, this ledger. You stole the diamond, Clara, didn't you? Not for greed, but for him. Why?" Clara's eyes welled, but her jaw set. "Father wanted it gone, hidden, to stop them. Edward didn't listen. He brought them back." Her voice broke, and Blanc saw it. The glance, not just to Victor, but to a past she couldn't escape. Them. Blanc pressed, the ledger heavy in his hand. "This syndicate, you mean?" The 1E runs, with Victor as the muscle and Edward as the fool. Clara nodded, tears falling. I hid the diamond to honour father, to break the cycle. It's in the chandelier, Benoit. The star burns, but they'll kill me if they know. Her confession landed like a stone, heavy with truth. The chandelier, not the panel, but the crystals themselves. Blanc's blood roared. Marcus was right. The diamond was here, hidden in plain sight. Before he could respond, a creak echoed from the passage, deliberate like boots on stone. Clara gasped, clutching her necklace. Blanc pulled her behind the table, his penknife out, eyes on the chamber's mouth. The lantern flickered again, shadows dancing like ghosts. A voice drifted in, soft but familiar, Victor's, edged with ice. She's here, isn't she? He said, not to Blanc, but to someone else. Maybe Marcus, maybe E. Clara's hand shook in Blanc's, her confession a ticking bomb. He whispered, Stay still, darling, we ain't done yet. But his mind raced. Victor knew too much, too fast. Blanc scanned the chamber, spotting a crescent moon carving above the chest, its edges worn but clickable, like the library's panel. He pressed it, heart pounding, and a narrow door slid open, revealing a tunnel beyond, dark, damp, leading up. An escape or a deeper trap? He pulled Clara toward it, but she resisted, whispering, The ledger! Take it! It's proof! He grabbed it, its weight a promise and a curse, and pushed her into the tunnel, his drawl steady. Go, Clara! I'll handle the wolves! She vanished, her footsteps fading, and Blanc turned back, closing the door just as Victor's silhouette filled the chamber's entrance. His cufflink gleamed, his smile a predator's. Blanc, he said, stepping forward, you're digging graves now. Marcus hovered behind, eyes wide with panic, and a third figure lingered. Female, shadowed, not Lila, the woman from the warehouse. Blanc's grin was grim. Graves? I prefer puzzles, Victor. Like why a consultant needs a syndicate to steal what's already his. Victor laughed, but his hand twitched, reaching for something heavy. Blanc's eyes caught chalk on Marcus's, boots fresh and fine, trailing back to the passage. The pattern again, deliberate, mocking. He backed toward the tunnel's hidden door, baiting Victor. That chandelier's a pretty hiding spot, ain't it? Clara's smarter than you figured. Victor's smile froze, a crack in the mask. You're guessing, he said, but his voice tightened, and Blanc knew he'd struck gold. He slipped into the tunnel, slamming the door shut, its lock clicking. Victor's shout echoed, muffled but furious, as Blanc ran, the ledger tucked. Under his arm, Clara's confession burning in his mind. The tunnel sloped upward, its air cold and stale, ending at a grate beneath the East Wing's library. The map's shadows meet. He emerged, heart pounding, and checked the ledgers. Last page, E meets VL at dawn, vault. Dawn, again, hours away, and a vault he hadn't found. The estate was quiet now, the gala winding down, but danger hummed louder than ever. Blanc needed Clara, the chandelier, the vault, but first he needed to live. He stepped into the library, dusting chalk from his hands, when a new threat stopped him cold. His car keys, left in his jacket, were gone. He checked the lot later, finding his sedan untouched, until he tested the brakes, loose and unresponsive. A syndicate hit, clean and quiet. He grinned, grimly thrilled. E was scared, and scared meant close. Blanc pocketed the ledger, his mental tapestry weaving tighter. The smudge, the scuff, the chalk, the note, the key, the photo, the map, the necklace, the debt, the moonstone, Marcus's fear, Lila's notebook, Clara's truth, the chandeliers, promise. The diamond was in reach, but so was E. He moved toward the ballroom, ready to climb again, when a final sound froze him. A soft tap, like a pen on stone, from the passage he'd left. Someone had followed, and they weren't Clara. Chapter 7. The Ledger's Lies. 10,000 to 1,000 words. The library of the Hawthorne estate was a fortress of shadows, its towering shelves heavy with secrets older than the books they held. Benoit Blanc stood by the hidden grate, the faint tap from the passage below still echoing in his ears. A soft, deliberate sound, like a hunter testing the ground. His car keys were back in his pocket, but the sabotaged brakes, loose, silent, deadly, confirmed the syndicate's reach. Someone wanted him, gone, and not just Victor Lang, whose velvet threats lingered like a bad cologne. The ledger tucked under Blanc's arm burned with truth. Clara's name, Victor's deals, and the cryptic E, tied to smuggling and Edward's debts. Clara's confession, the diamonds in the chandelier, was a beacon, but her silence about E was a wall, and Blanc aimed to tear it down. Moonlight spilled through the library's windows, catching the crescent moon key in his pocket, its etching a twin to Clara's necklace, Victor's cufflink, and the chamber's carving. The note E.H. owes V.L. everything felt heavier now. Not just a debt, but a chain binding Edward to Victor, and maybe to E. The riddle, the star burns where shadows meet, had led to the chandelier. But the shadows were here, in the library where Clara's glance had pleaded for salvation. Blanc's pulse thrummed, not with fear, but with the thrill of a puzzle snapping into place. The tap below meant pursuit, but Clara was the key, not just to the diamond, but to the heart of this game. He slipped out, moving through the East Wing's corridors, the gala's dying hum replaced by the creak of an old house settling, or watching. The ledger's pages whispered in his mind. Clara H., Victor L., E., millions in gems, auctions masking, bribes. Clara had hidden the diamond to honor Elias, to stop the syndicate, but E. was the puppet master, and she knew more than she'd said. Blanc's mental tapestry wove tighter. The smudge on the display case, the scuff by the pedestal, the chalk's trails, the riddle's verse, the crescent moon key, the photo of Edward, and Vincent Lane, the library's map, Clara's necklace, Edward's debt, the moonstone's ghost, Marcus's cameras, Lila's notebook, Clara's chandelier truth. Each thread pointed to Clara, trembling under Ecoview's age shadow. Henchiwa found her in the East Wing's parlour, a small room of faded velvet and flickering candles, its air thick with lavender and regret. Clara sat by a window, her emerald gown pooling like spilled ink, her crescent moon necklace glinting as she stared into the night. Her fingers twisted a handkerchief, shredding it, a mirror of her nerves at the gala. Blanc stepped inside, his loafers soft on the rug, his drawl gentle but firm. "Miss Hawthorne," he said, You and I need to have a reckoning. That chandelier's a fine hiding spot, but this ledger," he tapped it, setting it on a table, "says you're holding more than a diamond close." Clara's eyes snapped to him, wide with something between fear and defiance. "Benoit," she whispered, "you don't know what you're asking." Her necklace caught the candlelight, a star in the dark, and Blanc saw it again. The glance, not just to Victor, but to a past she couldn't bury. He pulled out the ledger, opening to the page with her name. "I'm asking for E, Clara. You said the diamond's about your father, about stopping the syndicate. But this here says you're in it, deals, bribes, right beside Victor, and someone called E. Who is it? Edward? Or someone scarier?" Her breath hitched, her fingers clutching the necklace. "It's not what you think," she said, voice trembling. "I never wanted this. Father, Elias, he tried to end it, to clean the family's name. The diamond was his way out, hidden to keep it from them." Her eyes darted to the door, as if E might walk through. Blanc leaned closer, his voice a velvet blade. "Them's a big word, darling. The syndicate, sure, but E ain't just a shadow. You know the name. Say it, or I'll dig till the walls come down." Clara stood, pacing, her gown rustling like leaves in a storm. "You think it's Edward, don't you? Everyone does." Her laugh was bitter, broken. "He's drowning, Benoit. Debts, promises, lies, but he's not E. He's just—" She stopped, tears glinting, and Blanc's mind clicked. EHO's VL everything. Edward was a pawn, not the king. He pulled out Lila's notebook, recovered from the warehouse, its pages scrawled with auctions, dates, Edward's losses, millions, funneled to Victor's deals, initialed E. He held it up, watching Clara's face. "These match the ledger, Clara. Edward's bleeding money, Victor's cashing in, and E's calling shots. If it ain't Edward, who?" She turned away, her necklace swinging, its crescent moon a silent scream. "I can't," she whispered. "They'll destroy us. Me, Edward, everything father built." Blanc's blood sang. They, not Victor, not Edward, a bigger beast with E at its heart. He stepped forward, voice soft but relentless. "Clara, you hid the diamond to stop this. You're stronger than you know. Tell me and I'll end it. For Elias, for you." Her eyes met his, searching, then fell to the ledger. Its pages a confession she couldn't outrun. Before she could speak, a crash echoed from the hall, glass shattering, a servant's yelp. Clara flinched, her necklace dropping to the floor, its clasp broken. Blanc scooped it up, its weight heavier than it should be, as if hiding something inside. "Stay here," he said, pocketing it, but Clara shook her head, voice fierce. "I'm not a child, Benoit. I'm coming." He didn't argue. Her fire was proof she wasn't broken yet. They moved to the door, the ledger under his arm, when a memory hit him. Elias Hawthorne in the auction photo. His eyes haunted, not proud. Elias had fought this syndicate, lost, and Clara was his echo. The hall was empty, but chalk dust marked the floor, fresh and fine, leading to a guest cottage across the estate's lawn. Blanca's instincts screamed, Victor, Marcus, or E, himself, luring him. Clara's confession was close, but so was danger. They crossed the grass, moonlight casting their shadows like ghosts. The cottage's windows dark, but alive with intent. Blanc tried the door, locked, but the crescent moon key fit, clicking open to reveal a small room, its air thick with dust and secrets. A safe sat in the corner, its lock another crescent moon, and Blanc's heart ticked faster. Clara's necklace, the key, the carving, they were a map, and this was a destination. He opened the safe, Clara's breath sharp beside him, finding bank records, Edward's accounts drained to nothing, payments to VL and E, dated years back, long before the diamond's theft. A flashback hit Blanc. Elias at an auction whispering to Edward, his face tight with dread. The syndicate wasn't new, it was a legacy, twisting the Hawthorns for decades. Clara's voice broke the silence, barely audible. Father found them, years ago. He tried to stop it, but Edward, he fell in. Her words were a confession, but not the name Blanc needed. He turned to her, the records heavy in his hands. Clara, E ain't just a name, it's a chain. Break it. Who's running this? Her lips parted, but a shadow moved outside, swift and silent, a glint of metal catching the moonlight. Victor's cufflink, unmistakable. Blanc pulled Clara down, his penknife out, eyes on the window. Victor's voice drifted in, low and amused. "You're late, Blanc," he said, not to them, but to someone else. Maybe Marcus, maybe E. Clara's hand shook, her necklace in Blanc's pocket, a burning clue. Blanc scanned the cottage, spotting a trapdoor under a rug. Its hinges rusted, but usable. He whispered, "We're leaving, darling. That safe's a start, but E's out there." Clara nodded, her fire dim but alive. They slipped through the trapdoor, landing in a crawl space thick with cobwebs. The ledger and records tucked close. Blanc's mind raced. Victor's tale, the chalk's trail, the syndicate's roots. He needed the chandelier, Clara's truth, the vault. But first he needed E. They emerged in a garden shed, the estate's lights distant, Victor's voice fading. Blanc checked the records again, finding a single line. E controls the vault. Dawn. The vault, where shadows meet, where the diamond might still burn. He turned to Clara, her face pale but set. "You're close, Clara. One name, and we end this." She opened her mouth, but a rustle stopped her. A twig snapping, too close, too deliberate. Blanc's grin was grim. The ledger lied, but so did the shadows, and someone was watching. Chapter 8. The Midnight Chase. The garden shed was a coffin of splintered wood and moonlight, its air thick with earth and dread. Benoit Blanc crouched beside Clara Hawthorne, her breath sharp as a blade, the ledger and bank records clutched tight under his arm. The twigs snap outside, too close, too deliberate, hung like a guillotine, proof that Victor Lang or his unseen master was circling. Clara's crescent moon necklace, now in Blanc's pocket, felt heavy with secrets. Its broken, clasp hiding more than sentiment. The note's words, EHOSVL everything, burned in his mind, tying Edward to Victor. But the ledger's E loomed larger, a shadow Clara wouldn't name. The riddle, the star burns where shadows meet, pointed to the chandeliers. Diamond, yet the bank records whispered of a vault. A final convergence where truths waited, or traps sprang. Blanc's pulse thrummed, not with fear, But with the electric thrill of a chase, he was born to run. He eased the shed's door open, moonlight spilling over the Hawthorne estate's gardens. Roses and hedges sculpted into mazes, their shadows twisting like conspirators. Clara's emerald gown caught the light, a beacon he needed to dim. "Stay low, darling," he whispered, his southern drawl steady as stone. "Whoever's out there ain't here for tea." Clara nodded, her eyes fierce despite the tremble in her hands. She'd confessed enough. Elias's fight, Edward's fall, the diamond hidden to break the syndicate. But E was still a ghost, and ghosts hunted tonight. Blanc scanned the lawn, spotting chalk dust on the grass, faint but fresh, a trail matching the study, library, warehouse, and cottage, Victor's work, or Marcus's fear. His mental tapestry wove tighter. The smudge on the display case, the scuff by the pedestal, the chalk's deliberate marks, the riddle's verse, the crescent moon key, the photo of Edward and Vincent, Lane, the library's map, Clara's necklace, Edward's debt, the moonstone's shadow, Marcus's cameras, Lila's notebook, Clara's chandelier truth, the ledger's deals, the safe's records. Each thread led here to a garden alive with danger, where the vault, E controls the vault, dawn, beckoned like a siren. A shadow flickered at the garden's edge, tall and deliberate. Victor, his cufflink glinting like a predator's eye. Blanc pulled Clara behind a hedge, his penknife ready, though steel felt small against Victor's menace. "He knows," Clara whispered, her voice breaking. "He's always known." Blanc's eyes narrowed. Known what? The diamond's hiding. Spot? Or E's name? He needed Clara alive to find out, but Victor wasn't alone. A red dot danced across the hedge, a sniper's laser, grazing Blanc's sleeve before vanishing. His grin was grim. "Well now," he murmured, "ain't that a rude how do you do?" He grabbed Clara's hand, pulling her into the maze, their steps muffled by dew-soaked grass. The gardens were a labyrinth, paths curling like riddles, moonlight their only guide. The sniper's dot flickered again, clipping a rose, its petals falling like blood. Blanc's mind raced. Victor's broker, not shooter. Marcus too shaky. E, or a hired hand. He ducked under an arch, Clara's gown snagging on thorns, her breath ragged but determined. "The gazebo," she gasped, pointing to a stone, structure at the maze's heart. Its roof, a crescent moon in silhouette. "I hid something there, for father." Blanc nodded, steering her toward it, the chalk trail fading, but the sniper's threat growing. The gazebo loomed, its marble steps worn, a single bench holding a leather satchel, Clara's, left in haste. He checked for traps, his penknife probing, then opened it. Inside, a letter in Elias's hand, its ink faded but fierce. "Edward, the Jew syndicate owns you. Hide the diamond, or they'll take everything." Beside it, a third crescent moon key, vault-sized, heavier than the others, its etching deep and old. Blanc's blood sang. The vault where shadows meet, where the riddle converged. Clara clutched the letter, tears glinting. "Father begged him," she said, voice raw. "Edward promised to stop them, but he lied. Debts, greed, E. He's Udo stole father's dream." Blanc pocketed the key, his mind clicking. Elias's fight, Edward's betrayal, Clara's sacrifice, The bank records showed millions owed to VL and E. But this letter was personal, a father's plea. He turned to Clara, voice soft but relentless. You hid the diamond for Elias, but E's still pulling strings. Name them, Clara. Now. Her lips parted, but a shout cut through. Victor's closer now, venomous. Clara, you can't run forever. The sniper's dot swept the gazebo, pinning Blanc's shadow. He pulled Clara down, heart pounding, and scanned the satchel again, finding a torn photo. Elias, Edward, and a younger Victor, all smiling, a gem glinting between them. The back read, Istanbul, 2005, before E, before E. A timeline, a fracture. Blanc's pulse spiked. Victor wasn't just the broker. He was the bridge. He stuffed the photo and letter into his jacket, the ledger and records heavy beside them. We're moving, he whispered, eyeing a path to the estate's north wing, where the vault might hide. Clara nodded, but as they rose, Victor stepped into the gazebo's light, his cufflink a cruel star, his hand gripping Clara's arm, before Blanc could react. Enough games, Victor hissed, his velvet voice gone feral. The diamond, Clara! Where is it? His other hand held a blade, its edge catching moonlight inches from her throat. Blanc stood, slow and deliberate, his drawl icy. Easy, Victor, you cut her, and that boss of yours, I'll have a mighty lean payday. Victor's smile was a snarl, but his eyes flicked to the satchel, the keys bulge in Blanc's pocket. You're out of moves, Blanc, he said. The vault's mine, and so's she. Clara's gaze met Blanc's, not fear but fire, and she twisted, slamming her heel into Victor's shin. He cursed, grip loosening, and Blanc lunged, shoving him back, the blade clattering to the stone. Run! Blanc barked, pushing Clara toward the path. She bolted, her gown a green blur, the sniper's dot chasing her shadow. Blanc grabbed the satchel, sprinting after her, Victor's roar behind him. The gardens twisted, paths doubling, back. But Clara knew them better, leading to a stone wall with a rusted gate, its lock another crescent moon. Blanc tried the new key, vault-sized, but it fit, clicking open to a courtyard, the north wing's silhouette looming. The vault was close, he felt it, where shadows and stars collided. They ducked behind a fountain, Victor's footsteps fading, but his threat alive. Clara panted, her eyes on the key. It's father's, she said, voice steady now. He designed the vault to protect, not to hide. Blanc's mind clicked. The riddle, Elias's plan, the chandelier as decoy. The diamond might be there, but the vault held truth. Maybe Yiddich's name. He checked the letter again. Elias's words stark. They'll take everything. The syndicate wasn't just greed, it was vengeance, and Edward had fed it. A new sound broke through. A hum, low and mechanical, from the north wing's base, like the warehouse's pulse but stronger. Blanc's heart ticked faster. The vault, alive, waiting. He led Clara toward it, chalk marking their path, deliberate as ever. The north wing's door was ajar, a trap or an invitation. Inside, a stairwell descended, its walls carved with crescent moons, leading to a steel door, vault-sized, etched with the riddle's words, where shadows meet. The third key fit, turning with a groan, But Victor's laugh echoed from above, cold and close. "No escape, Blanc," he said, his cufflink glinting in the dark. Blanc pushed Clara inside, the vault's air cold and heavy, its walls lined with empty shelves. Records, gems, secrets, all gone. The hum came from a panel, locked tight, but Clara's face said she knew it. "Father's safe," she whispered, "and for the truth." Blanc's grin was fierce. The diamond was in the chandelier, but the vault held E, and Victor knew it too. He turned to the door, ready to lock it, when a shadow moved inside, not Clara's, not Victor's. Someone was here, and the vault was no sanctuary. Chapter 9. The Vault's Revelation. The vault beneath the Hawthorne Estate's north wing was a crypt of cold steel and secrets, its walls swallowing light like a hungry void. Benoit Blanc stood by the heavy door, Clara Hawthorne's trembling form beside him, the low hum from a locked panel pulsing like a heartbeat in the dark. The shadow he'd glimpsed, not Clara's, not Victor Lang's, lingered in his mind, a silent threat moving in the vault's depths. The crescent moon key, vault-sized and heavy, had opened the door, but the truth it promised felt like a trap tightening. Clara's confession, the diamond hidden in the chandelier's crystals, honouring her father Elias, burned bright. Yet the ledger's E, Edward's debts, and Victor's pursuit cast long shadows. The riddle, the star burns where shadows meet, had led here, but the vault's barren shelves mocked Blanc's hopes. His pulse thrummed, not with doubt, but with the electric thrill of a puzzle about to crack wide open. Clara's emerald gown was torn from the garden chase, her crescent moon necklace still in Blanc's pocket, its broken clasp a clue he hadn't unravelled. The bank records, Elias's letter, and the ledger weighed heavy in his jacket, each tying Edward to Victor, VL, and the elusive E who pulled the syndicate's strings. Victor's laugh, "No escape, Blanc," echoed from the stairwell above, his cufflinks glint a promise of pursuit. But the shadow inside the vault wasn't Victor's. It was softer, sharper, deliberate. Blanc's eyes scanned the shelves, empty, dusted, no gems or papers, then locked on the humming panel, its lock etched with a crescent moon, smaller than the vault key but familiar, like Clara's first. "Stay close, darling," Blanc whispered, his southern drawl a steady anchor. "Someone's playing hide-and-seek, and I ain't fond of losing." Clara nodded, her eyes wide but fierce, the fire from the gazebo still alive. She'd named Elias's dream to end the syndicate, but not E, and Blanc needed both to finish this. His mental tapestry wove tighter. The smudge on the display case, the scuff by the pedestal, the chalk's trails, the riddles verse, the crescent moon keys, the photo of Edward and Vincent Lane, the library's map, Clara's necklace, Edward's debt, the moonstone's ghost, Marcus's cameras, Lila's notebook, Clara's chandelier truth, the ledger's deals, the safe's records, Elias's letter. Each thread converged here, where shadows met, but the diamond star was upstairs, glittering in plain sight. He approached the humming panel, the vault's air growing colder, heavier, as if resisting intrusion. The shadow flickered again, a silhouette against the far wall, slipping behind a shelf. Blanc's penknife was out, useless against a gun, but better than nothing. "Friend," he called, voice smooth as bourbon, "if you're here for the view, I'd suggest the ballroom. Less dusty." A soft laugh answered, not Victor's menace or Clara's fear, but something else layered with intent. The silhouette stepped forward, jasmine scent cutting through the vault's must. Lila Voss, her journalist's notebook gone, her eyes sharp with a truth she'd hidden too long. "Lila," Blanc said, his grin tight but curious. "Fancy meeting you in a vault at midnight. That notebook of yours grow legs, or are you more than you've been selling?" Clara gasped, stepping back, but Lila's gaze held Blanc's, steady and unyielding. "I'm not your enemy, Benoit," she said, voice low, "but I'm not just a reporter." She pulled a badge from her coat, Interpol, glinting like a blade. "I've been tracking the syndicate for years. Edward's their puppet, Victor's their broker, and E. They're the heart. I'm here to end it." Blanc's blood sang, pieces snapping into place. Lila's jasmine trailing from study to warehouse wasn't coincidence. It was a mission. He tilted his head, drawl sharp. "Interpol, huh? That explains the skulking. But not why you're in my vault, dodging my questions. Got proof, or just perfume?" Lila's smile was grim. She produced a small recorder, its red light blinking, and played a clip. Edward's voice strained with Victor's velvet calm. "E wants the diamond tonight at the gala. No mistakes, or we're both done." The date matched today, April 15th, 2025, hours away. Blanc's pulse spiked. Tonight, the gala, the chandelier. Clara's voice broke, raw and urgent. "The diamond's not theirs," she said, eyes on Lila. "Father hid it. Elias, he knew they'd come. I put it in the chandelier, the star burns, to keep it safe until—" She trailed off, tears falling, and Blanc saw it. The necklace's weight, Elias's fight, Clara's burden. He stepped closer, voice soft but relentless. "Until what, Clara? Until E was gone? You know who they are. Say it, and we'll finish this together." Lila nodded, her badge a silent vow. But Clara's lips trembled, locked by fear or loyalty. Before she could speak, the panel's hum spiked, a mechanical groan shaking the vault. Blanc spun, trying the crescent moon key from Clara's necklace. It fit, turning with a click. The panel slid open, revealing a safe, its interior not gems, but papers. A single letter in Elias's hand, its ink stark. "Edward, you betrayed me. The syndicate was dead, but you woke it for greed. The diamond's my shield, hidden where stars burn, safe from E below. A gala invite tonight's marked E's delivery." Blanc's mind raced. Elias had planned this years ago, and Clara had carried it alone. Lila's recorder clicked off, her voice urgent. "Edward's meeting E tonight, under the chandeliers. Victor's delivering the diamond, or thinks he is." Blanc grinned, fierce and bright. "He's delivering nothing but trouble, 'cause Clara's star's still burning." He turned to Clara, holding Elias's letter. "Your father trusted you to end this. Name E, or that gala's their victory." Clara's eyes met his, then Lila's, her necklace's absence a wound. "It's—" she started, but a crash above cut her off. Victor's voice, barking orders, footsteps pounding the stairwell. Blanc grabbed the letter and invite, shoving them into his jacket with the ledger and records. "Time to move," he said, pulling Clara toward the vault door, Leela beside them. The shadow was gone, but Victor's pursuit was real, his cufflinks glint flashing as he descended. The vault's safe stayed open, its hum silent now, as if spent. Blanc's mind wove the tapestry. Elias's plan, Clara's hiding spot, Lila's truth, Edward's betrayal. The gala was the stage, the chandelier, the prize, but E was the shadow he couldn't see. They reached the North Wing's hall, moonlight spilling through arched windows. The gala's music, a distant pulse. Violins, laughter, a facade of joy. Blanc needed the ballroom, the chandelier, but first, Clara's truth. He stopped her, voice low. "Clara, Elias fought for you. Don't let E win." Her tears fell, but her jaw set. "It's Edward," she whispered, voice breaking. "He's E, not just a pawn. He lied to father, to me, to everyone. The syndicate's his now." Blanc's heart sank, not surprise but sorrow. Edward, the son, the traitor. Lila's badge gleamed, her nod grim. "We'll take him tonight," she said, "but we need the diamond. Proof." Blanc's grin returned, sharp as attack. "Oh, it's up there, glittering like a guilty conscience. Let's make sure E sees it fall." They moved toward you, the ballroom, chalk dust on the floor, fresh and mocking. Victor's trail or a decoy? Blanc's fingers brushed the crescent moon keys. 3 now, each a step closer. The gala loomed, a glittering trap, and Edward's confession was half the battle. As they neared the ballroom's doors, Blanc's phone buzzed. A text, anonymous, chilling. "You're too late." His blood ran cold, not for the words, but for what they meant. Edward knew about the vault, Clara, the chandelier. Or was E someone else, still hidden? He showed Lila, her face paling, but Clara's resolve held. "Father's watching," she said, voice steady. "We end this." Blanc nodded, his mental tapestry near complete. The smudge, chalk, keys, photo, map, necklace, debt, moonstone, ledger, letter, chandelier. One move left. The gala, where shadows and stars would collide. They stepped into the ballroom, chandeliers blazing above, guests swirling in a dance of wealth and lies. Blanc scanned for Edward, Victor, Marcus, but a scream tore through the crowd, sharp and raw, from the balcony above. Clara froze. Lila's hand went to her badge, and Blanc's grin faded. The diamond burned, but so did danger, and E, Edward or not, wasn't waiting. Chapter 10. The Final Gala. The ballroom of the Hawthorne estate was a cathedral of light and lies, its chandeliers glittering like captive stars, each crystal a silent witness to the chaos about to unfold. Benoit Blanc stood at its heart, his linen suit crisp against the swirl of silk gowns and tuxedos, Clara Hawthorne and Lila Voss tense beside him. The scream from the balcony still echoed, a guest's shock at a spilled tray, not blood, but it sharpened the air, a prelude to the storm Blanc was brewing. Clara's confession, Edward as E, the syndicate's greedy heart, burned in his mind, matched by Lila's Interpol badge and her recording of Edward's plot with Victor Lang. The riddle, the star burns where shadows meet, had led to the chandelier above, where Clara swore the starfire diamond hid. its facets woven into crystals. Tonight, Blanc would end it. Diamond, syndicate, all, or fall trying. His pulse thrummed, not with fear, but with the electric joy of a puzzle begging to be solved. The gala pulsed around him, violins weaving a delicate mask over whispered deals and nervous glances. Clara's hand trembled, her crescent moon ring glinting, a twin to the necklace in Blanc's pocket, the keys, the ledger's secrets. Lila's eyes scanned the crowd, her agent's calm fraying as she hunted Victor's cufflink or Edward's tell. The anonymous text, "You're too late," nagged Blanc, not for its threat, but for what it missed. He wasn't late. The diamond was here, Edward was E, and the chandelier was his stage. His mental tapestry was near complete. The smudge on the display case, the scuff by the pedestal, the chalk's trails, the riddles verse, the crescent moon keys, the photo of Edward and Vincent Lane, the library's map, Clara's necklace, Edward's debt, the moonstone's ghost, Marcus's cameras, Lila's notebook, Clara's chandelier truth, the ledger's deals, the safe's records, Elias's letter. One move left, to light the star and burn the shadows. Blanc caught Edward Hawthorne's silhouette across the room, his silver hair stark against a black suit, his smile tight as he toasted a guest. Victor lingered near the balcony, his cufflink a glint of menace, Marcus trailing him like a nervous shadow. Blanc leaned to Clara, voice low. "Stay sharp, darling. Edward's playing host, but he's watching you." Clara nodded, her ring twisting, eyes locked on her brother with a mix of sorrow and steel. Lila whispered, "My team's outside. Signal when you're ready." Blanc's grin was a blade. "Oh, I'm ready now, Miss Voss. Let's give 'em a show." He moved to the ballroom's centre, climbing a small dais where a string quartet paused, sensing the shift. Blanc raised a champagne flute, his drawl cutting through the chatter like a spotlight. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, voice warm but edged, "a toast to the Hawthorne legacy, to stars that burn, and to secrets that don't stay buried." Heads turned, Edward's smile freezing, Victor's hand pausing mid-sip. Blanc's eyes locked on Edward, baiting him. This estate's seen its share of shine. Gems, promises, debts. But tonight, one star burns brighter than the rest, don't it, Mr. Hawthorne? Edward's glass shook, his face pale but composed. "A fine speech, Mr. Blanc," he called, voice strained. "But I'm just a host, not a poet." The crowd chuckled, nervous, but Blanc's grin widened, relentless. "Host, sure, but also a man with debts deeper than these cellars, tied to a syndicate that don't take kindly to loose ends. Ain't that right, E?" The room stilled, gasps rippling, Edward's eyes darting to Victor, who stepped forward, cufflink, flashing, hand brushing his jacket, knife or gun, Blanc couldn't tell. Clara's breath hitched, her ring glinting as she stepped beside Blanc, voice clear. "Edward, stop. Father trusted you, and you broke him." Edward's face cracked, not guilt, but rage, his mask slipping. "You don't understand, Clara," he snapped, voice rising. "Elias was weak. Dreams don't pay debts. I rebuilt us, made us kings." The crowd parted, sensing a storm, and Blanc seized it, his drawl a velvet whip. "Kings of what, sir? A syndicate stealing gems, selling lies? That's starfire up there." He pointed to the chandelier, crystals blazing, It's your noose, Edward, and you tied it. Victor lunged for Clara, his blade out now, but Lila moved faster, her badge flashing as she shouted, "Interpol! Freeze!" The crowd screamed, scattering, and Victor grabbed Clara's arm, dragging her toward the balcony, his voice a snarl. "The diamond, Blanc, now, or she's done." Blanc's heart pounded, but his grin held, eyes on the chandelier. "You want it, Victor. It's been shining all night, right where Clara put it, for Elias, not you." He nodded to Lila, who signalled her team, shadows moving at the ballroom's edges. Blanc climbed the dais' railing, nimble despite his suit, reaching a service, ladder to the chandelier's frame. The crowd gasped, Edward shouting, "He's mad!" But Blanc's hands were steady, finding a crystal heavier than the rest, its facets colder, denser, the starfire woven into the light. He held it aloft, moonlight catching its fire, and called down, "This what you're selling, Edward? Your father's shield for your greed?" Edward roared, rushing the dais, but Lila's team burst in, black-clad agents, guns drawn, cuffing Victor's goons as he cursed, blade still at Clara's throat. Blanc descended, diamond in hand, his drawl a beacon. "Let her go, Victor. Your boss is done, and so's your game." Victor's eyes flicked to Edward, then the diamond, his grip tightening. Clara twisted, her ring's edge scraping Victor's wrist, and she broke free, running to Blanc. Lila's agents tackled Victor, his cufflink clattering to the marble, a final note of defeat. Edward stood alone, crowd circling, his confession spilling like a broken dam. "I'm E," he gasped, voice raw. "I had to. Debts, power. They demanded it. Elias left us nothing." Blanc stepped forward, diamond gleaming, his monologue, a symphony of truth. "Nothing? Elias left a legacy, sir, one you sold. Let's weave this tapestry, shall we?" A smudge on the case, Clara's glove hiding the diamond. Chalk trails, Victor's marks, guiding his deals. A note, EHO's VL, your debt to Victor, not just money but loyalty. Crescent moon keys, Elias's locks, guarding his, fight. A photo, Edward and Vincent Lane, Istanbul, where you met the syndicate. The map, pointing to shadows like that vault. Clara's necklace, her vow to Elias. The moonstone's ghost, your first theft, testing waters. Marcus's cameras, cut to cover you. Lila's notebook, her truth as an agent. The ledger, records, Elias's letter, your betrayal, written plain. And this diamond, he held it high, hidden where stars burn, 'cause Clara's stronger than you'll ever be. The crowd was silent, enthralled, as Lila's team cuffed Edward, his face a ruin of rage and shame. Clara took the diamond, her tears falling but her head high, returning it to the estate's curator with a nod. Elias's dream fulfilled. The syndicate's roots, exposed by Blanc's words, withered under Interpol's raid. Victor's goons spilling names, the ledger's deals sealing their fate. Lila shook Blanc's hand, her badge gleaming. A quiet thank you, her only words. Blanc stepped back, the chandelier's light softer now, its star safe. He adjusted his tie, grinned sly as he addressed the crowd. "Folks, keep your gems close, and your secrets closer. Me? I reckon there's another puzzle calling my name." He slipped out, the gala's hum fading, his loafers tapping on marble as he vanished into the April night. A new case already sparkling in his mind. Not for now, but soon. The estate stood quiet. Clara redeemed. Edward jailed. The diamond home. The shadows met. The star burned, and Benoit Blanc had lit them both.